All right, folks, we are live. I'm getting a little bit of my voice from you, Tommy Libman.
Fixing.
Today, we are talking about meaning. We put atheist versus theist in the thumbnail just to attract maybe a little bit of tension. But the main purpose today is to try to figure out what makes your life meaningful. I'm just getting set up here. Just going to be sharing the stream. La-di-da, la-di-dee. There we go. Boom. We are back to horizontal streaming here. Boom. Boom, chicka boom. Okay. Oops. I want this window. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Join the live discussion here. Bada bing, bada boom. All right. Yes, so we are talking about meaning today. As always, I'm going to start with a little bit of reading. When philosophers discuss the meaning of life, they are not normally asking what the word life means. They are investigating the domain of existential meaning or life's meaningfulness, a defensible definition of the domain. The philosophy of life's meaning is the study of whether, how, and under what conditions an individual life, humanity, or existence as a whole can possess purpose, significance, value, or intelligible structure. The central question is, therefore, what, if anything, makes a life matter, gives it direction, or renders it intelligible as a whole? This domain usually contains four overlapping dimensions: purpose. Does life have an aim, direction, function, or worthwhile goal? Significance. Does the life matter, make a difference, or possess importance? Value or worth. Is the life admirable, worthwhile, or worth living? Coherence or sense making. Do its experiences, projects, suffering, and relationships fit into an intelligible pattern or narrative? Contemporary treatments often regard the meaning of life as an amalgam question, meaning that it bundles together questions about purpose, significance, value, origin, suffering, and destiny rather than expressing one perfectly unified problem. Meaning of life versus meaning in life. Philosophers increasingly distinguish meaning of life. This concerns humanity, biological life, or existence as a whole. Does human existence have an overarching point, purpose, explanation, or cosmic significance? Examples include, why does humanity exist? Is there a purpose assigned by God or nature? Does the universe have a point? Is human existence ultimately significant? Meaning in life So that was meaning of life. Now we're looking at meaning in life. This concerns the meaningfulness of an individual person's life. What activities, relationships, commitments, achievements, or orientations make a particular life meaningful? Most contemporary analytic philosophers focus primarily on meaning in life rather than on finding one cosmic, quote, meaning of life. Another way to state that is most analytic philosophers would be considered existential nihilists in the sense that they don't believe that there is intrinsic meaning in life, or meaning of life, but meaning can be created in life. And this is where the domain sits philosophically. The subject is principally, this particular subject of meaning is principally part of axiology, the philosophical study of value, but it overlaps with ethics. What should we pursue? Metaphysics. Must God, freedom, immortality, or objective value exist for meaning to be possible? Existential philosophy. How should we live under conditions of freedom, mortality, suffering, and uncertainty? Philosophical anthropology. What kinds of beings are capable of meaningful lives? Narrative philosophy. Does a meaningful life require coherence or a comprehensible life story? The field is therefore both normative and existential. It asks not merely what people psychologically experience as meaningful, but what genuinely makes a life meaningful, assuming anything does. The contemporary analytic literature often tries to formulate general principles identifying the conditions that confer meaning on a life. Life's meaning overlaps with, but is not identical to, things like happiness, morality, well-being, purpose alone, subjective fulfillment. So to summarize what we're going to be talking about in a little bit of a different way, a little more information. Existential meaning is the dimension of human life concerning its purpose, significance, worth, and intelligibility, considered both from the standpoint of the individual life and from the wider standpoint of humanity or existence as a whole. Or in a bit of a compressed form, the meaning of life domain studies what makes life matter and make sense. So, welcome everyone. I'm just going to make sure everything's good. Robin says she's too ill today, but is listening. Yeah, welcome, Robin. Glad to see that you're listening, and I hope you get better soon. So, from my perspective, my purpose is to maximize well-being for myself and those around me. I believe, as a Humean sentimentalist, that all purpose is fundamentally born of our sentiments. You know, our feelings do the value sorting and cause us to arrive at purposes. The question, does life matter or possess importance? I think we create the level of mattering, of importance. So far as I can tell, there is nothing written on any object in reality, including us as a biological object, or on subjects that points us towards any kind of intrinsic meaning or importance. It's just that we find ourselves living under our given circumstance, and we build meaning in many different ways, and build importance through that. We build importance through our children, through our great works of art, science, sport, conquest. So, yeah, I see us as the arbiters and constructors of our own meaning. And that includes like the kinds of like religious structures you might be born into. Um, you're taught them by your parents, and then you hold on to them for as long as you feel that uh, this is a good thing to hold on to. But ultimately, I would argue that you are the arbiter of what meaning you're going to pursue. So yeah, I think I get a lot of meaning from my moral quest to maximize well-being for myself and those around me. And so, some of the different ways I do that, I mean, I've assisted in giving life to my two children, and having all of this new well-being potential that I can uh, put my meaning and purpose into practice by way of my children, um, and continue to do so for those around me, and try and stretch that moral well-beingism as far as I can reach. And the way I keep myself logically consistent, i.e., rational, to this purpose of maximizing well-being, physical, mental, and social health for myself and those around me, is by way of the 6 Pangburn virtues and maxims. This is the topic of my forthcoming book that should be out this fall. Welcome back, Kelly. Great to see Kelly and Robin in the YouTube chat. What up, Thomas? What up, Arcion? What up, Jackie? Jackalacken? Arcion says, do we have to be on the side of atheists or theists? No, but because I believe belief to be a binary situation, if you accept the proposition that gods exist, that would cause me to believe that you are a theist. And if you are in a state of not accepting the proposition that gods exist, which would include like a state of like, I don't know what to do with this proposition, or I don't know what I'm doing, or I don't know, that would still be in a state of non-acceptance of the proposition. So I think that would put you on the atheist side. I don't think there's a middle ground between atheist and theist. I think sometimes people, like, I should say, in more traditional, more stringent academic circles, you're going to see agnostic put as the middle ground between atheist and theist, and it is still talked about and used that way today in academia. But the popular usage of atheism and theism, that distinction, which I think is important to consider, the popular usage of terms, deals with atheists and theists as a position relating to belief, and then Gnosticism and agnosticism would be dealing with a knowledge position. So, for example, based on the popular usage of these terms, if you lack a belief in the proposition that gods exist, then you would be an atheist. And then if you claim not to know at the end of the day whether they exist or not, then you would be an agnostic atheist. If you're someone who claims, like I do, that there are no gods, and that you know that, then you would be a Gnostic atheist. So yeah, it depends how you're using these terms. I gave you the popular usage. There's also the I would call it like the pure academic usage. But because it's the popular usage, you're more commonly going to be running into the popular usage out there, as opposed to like the usage in academia that really I don't think is used much anymore outside of academia. So, and it's a critique I laid against like Graham Oppy, that and not that he was stringently against this, but it's like when we need to, as philosophers, be dealing with the popular usage of concepts, even if we want to argue that it's like, well, that's not the traditional academic usage of that concept. I mean, if you care about applied philosophy and philosophy that is, adapting and reacting to the changes that are happening with regards to common usage, then you need to be you need to constantly have your ear to the ground and see what's happening out there in the popular world. This goes for pop science. This goes for pop philosophy as well. So yeah, I think this is important. But yeah, like my purpose of maximizing well-being for myself and those around me gives me a lot of meaning. My friends give me a lot of meaning. I have so many beautiful friends, and I'm so lucky to have a lot of great friends. I get to spend a lot of my time during my regular workday with Thomas here. He's my perpetual motion machine study buddy, and I consider him an equal in every way. And yeah, through my beautiful relationship with my wife and my kids, I get so much purpose and meaning from that as well. But ultimately, I think the thing that really does drive me, and it's obviously connected to my wife and kids as well, is the maximization of my flourishing, but also their flourishing, and people around me, widening that circle as much as I can. Thomas, I would love to hear how you deal with the meaning of life for you, and
Yeah.
also how you kind of think descriptively about it. Like, what do you think human beings are doing with regards to meaning making, and then maybe lay out your meaning and purposes for us. That would be great.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll just start with mine. My meaning is relation, interdependence, love. Those three things are my meaning. They drive me with everything I do, with everything I think, with everything I am. Uh, I enjoy being that. You know what I mean? And I'm not perfect at it, but I'm not trying to be. So, um, that is my meaning. So friendship, family, all that kind of stuff. That's what matters. Relation, interdependence, love. However, um, I know a lot of people who have meanings completely different than mine, and so I would never say that. This is where I need to get descriptive because I don't want to start saying. So in general, people try to have different types of certainty. They'll have religious certainty. They'll have like a finalized closure certainty of the universe has certainty. All of these different, or, sorry, the universe has meaning. I apologize. The universe has ultimate meaning, or like, this other person that exists in my life is the only reason I exist. They're my meaning. That all that kind of stuff is we can show is unhealthy over time. You know what I mean? Of course, we should have meaning in relation, but one other singular person being the reason why anything means anything to you is codependence and very unhealthy. And that's the relationship a lot of people have with their gods, codependent relationships. And that is removing the agency from meaning at all. I don't think we can construct, so meaning is not discovered. It's enacted under the constraints around us through relation, through the physics around us, everything. I do not believe that it is assigned by a deity or invented arbitrarily, or derived from certainty or a ultimate universal meaning. I would say that meaning emerges from how us relational agents respond to reality together and with each other, as an active practice that continually updates and evolves as we move, through keeping that healthy state of interdependence, not counterdependence, not codependence, in the middle, very healthy. The way that we can be, that we can all do this. Um, so I would say religious certainty outsources meaning from us to something else, demands submission, which is not healthy, weaponizes fear in a lot of ways, not always, and collapses responsibility upward. Right? That's an issue, because responsibility is a part of how we build meaning. And so any system, human system that requires, or any system at all, God, another human, whatever, that requires worship, has already failed my test of responsibility, of good healthy responsibility with each other and with the world that we live in. Nihilism, that's another, an anti-meaning setting. I would say that those people notice the absence of guarantees, but they mistake that absence for complete emptiness of meaning. That can either free someone from moving through the relationships that we live in, or it can destroy them. And so I would say that no cosmic script does not mean no local significance or meaning. I don't think that matters at all. I think we can absolutely have local significance and meaning in our lives. And then there's another one that's kind of weird. It's existential romanticism. Just choose your meaning, right? That ignores constraint, powers, asymmetries, harm between relationships, between people and institutions and everything. So meaning must survive contact with other people and reality. It must. And so I would say a meaning is valid if it reduces unnecessary suffering for yourself and those between you. It increases future options and our plasticity as humans. It survives social coordination. That's the big thing. Allows repair between agents when it fails, and does not require certainty to function. No metaphysics here required. A functional adaptation between the relation between us.
Yeah. I mean, I've literally very, very little to quibble with on that.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know. I mean, I could definitely talk about my meaning, and how much you mean to me, and how much Jack means to me, and how much all the people in my life mean to me, and how much I mean to myself, because I want to be interdependent, not co or counter.
yeah.
So that I could go into that for days, because my system feels love pretty damn deep, to the point of where, like, I cry listening to music, kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's deep, but like, that the descriptive nature sits underneath all of that meaning that I feel. You know what I mean? And that the map and the territory can exist together. The map can make huge changes to the territory
Right.
in the functional, narrative, phenomenological senses. Not always the public epistemic register. That's not always necessary for the relational functionality between us.
What about well-being?
Yes. Now, I would say that interdependence with another human being, and if we could all do that properly, that is flourishing and well-being to me. It's the same thing. Your six virtues are the same thing I'm talking about: physical, mental, and social health. Flourishing on the side, like as an addendum.
Yep.
All of that, all of that together is my meaning. And when I say love and all that other stuff that I said, it incorporates all of that. It's a big synthesis, metasynthesis system,
Okay.
and I feel all of that. So that's another thing, is like having your guys' meaning makes my meaning enhanced,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
understanding your specific styles of it and incorporating it into my own.
Yeah. I think I am also very much influenced by other people's articulable meaning. And, I want to help people serve their own purposes as well. I mean, my system does have kind of concretized into it that a kind of a call for me to care about other people's purposes and to help them by way of maximizing their physical, mental, and social health. I know that that will help them better serve whatever discernible purposes a human being could really want to pursue. And so, yeah, I think there should be good reason within your system of meaning to care about others and their pursuits as well. There should be
Yes.
something within your framework that causes you to want to help them simply for the sake of helping them. I think that's really important.
Yes.
Not needing
Yeah.
anything, not needing anything in return. Um, not not only helping your friends and family. You know, they're like, I mean, to me, like when it comes to doing acts of altruism, at least as altruistic as we can be, those feel almost more genuine than doing, acts of flourishment towards your friends or your family. Like there is something more genuine about my moral quest when it's like, yeah, I mean, I have like physiological and psychological obligations to my children that I could, it doesn't seem like I could ever just shut off, right? So I am driven to maximize their well-being, almost like as almost just deontologically, by way of my very nature.
Mhm.
That is a duty I feel. But like when our purposes cause us to go out and help help complete strangers, build great works for complete strangers, I think there's something activating about that, from like a transcendence perspective, that I think is just something that if people could only get the slightest taste of it, that would dominate their purpose hierarchy. Like
It
I
would.
Yeah.
It's beautiful to inject yourself into other people's meanings that you love, and new people that you meet that you find are good, honest people that are going to be in that sense of secure interdependence with you, that will try to learn you and try to understand your meaning and perhaps incorporate the things that they can from yours and vice versa. That is the beauty of life to me.
Yeah. 100%. Jack, what do you think?
Yeah, Jackie.
Just about meaning in general. Let's see.
Yeah, lay it on us.
I think meaning, as far as we experience it as humans, comes wholly from the self and our sentiments about the world. As it, when you find those things in which you hold incredibly deep sentiments through your experience, you tend to craft attachments to it in a lot of ways that end up becoming meaningful to you. And I'm one of those people that doesn't believe in an objective meaning in any kind of way, shape, or form. And so I think it's incredibly powerful that people, through their own trials and tribulations, create and craft meaning from whatever point of view that they exist in or that they see the world from. I don't have any grand perspectives on it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Do you have any, so that's kind of your description of what you think meaning, where it's come from. How would you articulate like the kind of things that make your life feel meaningful and purposeful?
I would say it's incredibly difficult to articulate those things because while I do find that I have meaningful things in my life, like attachments to friends and goals that I have, I don't have I wouldn't say there's like an overall like meaning or grander purpose. I'm just kind of existing with what I have and what's going on, and of course, reaching those goals are a level of important to me, but I don't have getting to the goals is really all that's important. I don't have any like extra plans after that. I really just want to be away from everything for the most part. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So
So
maybe escaping the
peace is a big
norm,
part of meaning.
finding peace. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I suppose if meaning is what would, I don't know.
You can define it in many different ways. If you want to define it as a driver, peace might be one of the drivers. Yeah.
Sure, I don't know. I when thinking about this, I'm trying to get some sort of like feeling or internal like uh meaning locus going, but it's all outside stuff. I don't have
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I just don't have a lot of thoughts on me. I pretty much, in terms of meaning, I exist as the fucking plastic bag, man.
You pretty much already said it. You said most of my meanings through my friends. Isn't that what you
Yeah,
said earlier? Yeah,
my
there you
friends, my
go. There you go.
yeah, and my goals. But
I
Yeah.
think
no,
we've talked about this many times, Jack. You have some particular goals that are like, that have a temporal layer. They're kind of long term goals of, at one point you wanted to own your own boat and kind of
still
have
do.
that freedom. Yeah, and kind of have that freedom to travel around in your boat. Um, is there anything that you would find important to have? Like, what are the kinds of things you would find important to still have access to while you're living this boat life?
Probably, honestly, just communication with other people would probably be literally the only thing that I'd be entirely worried about. Being able to still be connected to the people I'm interested in talking about, and that provoke, good thoughts and healthy philosophical discussion.
Yeah. So you might want to have internet
Oh
as a
yeah,
as a
some sort of
means
internet
to,
and cell
yeah,
phone.
as a means to access those conversations. Yeah. And what do you think those when you outline that desire, is there anything within like the philosophical discourse, the dialectic, that you feel you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, I'd say that working through it on my own, but I'm essentially working on getting people to recognize how important it is to be good parents, and how to raise children and create a world around that that will hopefully encourage better parents growing up from those children, and so on and so forth, to move further from a way that I think exists in a level of suffering that is currently unacceptable.
Right. So you have some suffering avoidance, some promotion of flourishing goals in there, uh, for sure. I would say that give rise to these desires to want to help. Hi, sweetie. Are you going to bed? Give me a kiss. I love you. Have a good sleepy.
Tuck me in, Dad.
Um, yeah, and I'm completely linked with you on that purpose, Jack. Like, I think about that a lot. I think about, the kind of questions: are we doing enough to oversee the process of parenting? Are we, as societies, protecting children enough from bad situations and situations that are causing them detriments to their well-being, as opposed to helping them flourish? Something that I get a lot of experience of the negative side of that world by way of true crime, and taking in a lot of case study and interrogation, and some of the really unfortunate outcomes that befall some children, where we had every good reason to intervene, but the laws were too stringently erring on the side of protecting parental rights, and the child ends up dying a tortured death, or a death by death by starvation is also, death by
I would
torture.
claim that as a form
So,
of torture.
Yeah, so it's I've seen way too many of these cases where it's just like, yeah, the reason why social services, against their gut, could not pull the kids out of that home at the time they wanted to, they were being blocked by particular laws and processes. And I just think, I feel like looking at American law and Canadian law, that there is I think there's too much freedom being given to dangerous parents in some situations, and I want to see that eradicated. It's
Mm-hmm.
something I
Yep.
that really bothers me.
I agree completely. Is that a lot of my thoughts and feelings on that come from things that aren't as prevalent anymore, but still happen to exist or happen to be. I think that as normal as the thought is, the idea of making a person, and the only reason that you're doing it is because of some sort of expectations from some sort of family member, some sort of pressure from the outside. Was
Oh
it
yeah.
it's what everybody does, and you're not equipped in any kind of way. It's a disservice not to just yourself, but that if you're not equipped like that and you put somebody out in the world that you essentially forced to exist and kind of fucked up, there's a huge chance that more things, happen that way.
There is a
Excuse me, I was
culture
fighting
that
a cough.
I've noticed, born of this kind of almost, I would say, like Christian traditionalism culture, where I see like primacy being put on, just get out there and have kids, get out there and have kids, have more kids, have, this is being pressed as like a primary concern and primary uh goal. And I think the message should be not that. The message should be, if you are interested in procreating and having kids, these are the things that should be made virtuous in your mind. And these are some issues you should solve before you consider having kids, or before you have kids. You need to be able to essentially guarantee their flourishing one way or another. Like, for example, if it comes to a point where you all of a sudden cannot cause them to live a life of flourishing, then you have you have the necessary knowledge and education to be able to recognize that and have a plan to deal with that in a proper fashion, including what might be very difficult, meaning handing over that child to the state, or putting that child up for adoption. Like, this is better than you causing well-being detriment to this child just so that they can be with their biological parent. And in addition to those different kinds of cultural pressures you were talking about, also the cultural incentive where we have these situations where parents are admitting that they're having children to collect to be able to collect the child support money. And I think
Fucking disturbing.
Yeah, that is a very disturbing problem. Children shouldn't be viewed as a means to an end. They should be viewed as an end in and of themselves.
Most certainly. It's just interesting that the consideration, because it's so normal, the consideration really doesn't get brought up. You are creating an entire human being right now who is just as capable of having as complex and as in-depth and as profound experiences and thoughts as you'll ever have. And you're going, well, I'm not really thinking about it. It's just what goes on. It's just how things are.
Yeah.
To not be able to question like a fundamental like idea, like, is it a good idea to make a kid? I think kind of just shows a lack of willingness for a amount of introspection into life in general for most people. It's not that it's their fault necessarily. It's just most people either don't have the time or the tools to get to these kinds of questions, and I think that's really
Yeah.
cool for stuff like this. Well, we can talk about it, places like here where somebody can cop on YouTube and see these kinds of conversations are going on.
Yeah, that's so right. And there's people who are able to articulate their purposes, meanings, what good and bad looks like, what right and wrong looks like. Once you're able to articulate those things in a coherent fashion, you have less of a chance of screwing those things up for yourself or for those around you, and that would include potential children you're going to be creating. So I think childbearing should be taken much more seriously in society than it is taken. Some people also make this horrible. They take this horrible lens of like, we need to beat the Muslims in multiplying, so that's why everyone should be having more kids. Like, it's not about like the flourishment of the future children. It's like a numbers game. And again, I find that to be like just disgusting ways of looking at creating children.
Yeah, they're all gonna, we're all human beings, and everybody, knows that, like, in a lot of ways, getting reduced to a number in many scenarios is just disheartening. Whether it comes from, the business world, where they're looking at people in terms of just profit, or whether it comes from what we're talking about, is that it's always disheartening to see people want to use somebody's existence as a bolstering point for their thoughts and feelings and beliefs. An entire, like, we're going to make an entire person. Why? Because this guy said it was really important to make a baby so that we beat the Muslims. It's like,
Right.
What do you have in your checking account? $-200, and I'm
Right.
not getting paid for another 2 weeks, and fucking, we barely have any food in the house, and
Yeah, and my child's running out of diapers and all of these things, right?
right.
Like, yeah, and in the United States, like, I got to look at that stat because this blows my mind. Because in
It's some pretty
Canada,
bad stuff.
yeah, in Canada, having a child, at least like from the healthcare side of it, having a midwife throughout the whole process of pregnancy, having all everything that happens at the hospital in Canada, this is just worked into our taxes for our country, so it is free. There is $0 waiting for you at the end. And our friends just told us in the US, like, even with their copay, their insurance, they pay thousands upon thousands of dollars to have a kid. So yeah, how much on average does it cost?
I think that I don't disagree with any of this. I think that when I want to focus on the other part, which is trying to educate children, or is or educate parents, is that there's a lot of things that go into taking care of anything that's alive, let alone a whole ass human being.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that a lot of people do in an attempt to heal is do a full rebounds, like opposite bell curves of what their parents did for them. And essentially they're going, this is the parent that I needed when I was growing up, and what would have worked really well for me, and how this would have been excellent if I would have been exposed to it. Not taking into account that their kid is not them and needs a wholly unique person for him to be, in terms of us being a father and raising them. And I think that that applies obviously to mothers as well. And there's just a lot that I think that needs to be done before people should be able to have kids, educationally.
I am a fan of parental licensing.
I'm a fan too.
And
yeah.
I know that maybe I should have said that during my hot take episode, but it didn't come to mind. But this is a good time to have it. I mean, I'm like, I am a big fan of parental licensing, including like doing basic update. And I'm talking about the basics, right? Parental licensing would be so insanely easy with what I have in mind. It's basically one page of information that that is multiple choice. literally one page. And a person sits down, and it's government mandated. A person sits down at, let's say, I could see hospitals administering this, or midwives administering this as like, necessary documentation in order for you to, take the child home with you. That it's just literally one page. You fill out the multiple choice. It would be the easiest questions, like, how often do you, and this information often is going to come from a midwife, like how often do you need to feed your newborn, for example. Okay, we have a documented test where we show that they show that they have knowledge that this is when. And then if they get that wrong, the midwife or nurse or whoever administers this quick one-page test will tell them, no, it's actually, roughly every 2 to 3 hours is the answer, not 4 to 8 hours. That would be a real problem for a newborn. So like, getting that basic stuff done, making sure they understand basics of parental law as well. Like if you're, are you allowed to, smack your child as hard as you can across the face based on Canadian law? And if they answer yes, then no, sorry, you cannot do that. The answer is no. And these are the reasons why, and every parent by law has to adhere to this. And then, so like this stuff seems like really, really basic and straightforward, but like based on some of the horrible cases of child endangerment, and the ones that end as homicides, really end as like not just neglect but murder. It's like a lot of these things have to do with, I notice, the people who are getting themselves into these destructive loops with their children seem to be so ignorant on what the child actually needs. And so I think, however basic this testing would be, the parents are given their parental license, and then like, at when your child's about to turn age 5 or something like that, then you have another licensing test. Literally takes people 15 minutes to go in. It's just adding another layer of due diligence to make sure that children aren't suffering due to the deepest levels of ignorance that could easily be sorted out in short, easy sessions. The parents get to take home a copy of it. The government keeps a copy. Like I really like the idea of parental licensing.
I like that idea as well. I think that I think Thomas and I have talked about this quite a bit, and I think that one of the things that I think is would be useful is that a semester in college is like how long? It's like 4 or 5 months.
A semester? Yeah.
Yeah.
3, 4, something like that. Yeah,
3, 4, something like that. Yeah. So pregnancy, obviously, as we all know, that takes an average of 9 months. I think that, let's say these people pass their parental test. They've got a baby on the way. Should be pretty easy to throw them through a 101 course through the time and parental development or childhood development while they're going through the pregnancy. I don't think that would be crazy.
Yeah.
It just to have them get is it like they don't necessarily have to like pass the class or anything like that, but they do need to go through and learn what the hell's going on with all these things.
So the difference between what you're proposing in Canada would just be making it mandatory at some level, because in Canada, and again, like I said, built into our tax code, all free, no bill at the end of any of this, but you get a midwife fully covered by the government who's going to meet with you once or twice per month throughout the entire pregnancy.
Oh wow.
everything is, and that midwife, they have that exact knowledge we're talking about. Like, you know, uh you how many pees and poops you need to see to begin with, when you're having when you have a baby, um all of the information of like how much tummy time you should be giving, all of that stuff. Like there's all of that information is given there. They are there as like basically a 24/7 resource. And again, in Canada, so the average in the United States, if you're privately insured, $3,000 to $5,000 out of pocket US. If you're uninsured, $15,000 to $30,000 or more.
Yeah, I've seen that.
On average. If you happen to be on Medicaid, generally little or no out of pocket costs for pregnancy related care. But you have to be on Medicaid. So yeah, and then people could quibble about, well, I don't want to pay, how much Canadians pay for taxes. But I do want to just for that sake, I haven't looked at this update in a long time, but I want to see the general tax comparison for individuals.
While you look that up, I was going to go ahead and say a couple things if you didn't mind.
Yeah, go ahead, Joker. You're a little hard to hear. You're a little muffled. You might be a little too close to your mic.
It's so it's my headphone. I'm using a different pair of headphones. Is it better now or is it worse?
Maybe talk.
Same?
Yeah, actually, that I think you might sound a bit better now. Yeah.
Okay. I can switch headphones after this if it's problematic. Just let me know. All I was going to say is I was glad that you clarified what you meant by the licensing at first, because I'm still a little new here, so I didn't know how everything was. But I was like, man, things like that can easily lead into things like eugenics, just in the sense of like if you're having to pay for these things, right? But yours is more like an educational course, which is completely valid.
This would be
like
mandatory education, not something you spend. See, in Canada,
exactly.
I'm used to all of these government services and educational services and social services being free of charge. Like, yes, they're baked into the taxes people pay.
Mm-hmm.
The money comes from somewhere, but
yeah, and that's what I was going to say too. It's like with the U.S., like I support that. But they defund education here all the time to not even teach you properly, like proper sex education, So it's like it gets pretty rough in that category.
That is one of the
actual education issues.
Man, I got to tell you, that is one of the places where anyone who cares about the well-being of children should be proponents and celebrating sex education in schools.
Yes.
Because most sexual abuse happens in the home. There's a lot of ignorant people out there that want to say, no, parents should be the ones who, give their children sex education. So they can also do that too. But we need sex education outside the home, because the home is where sexual abuse almost always happens. So we need ways to deal with that phenomena, and one of the best ways is to have good age appropriate sexual education in schools for children. I get really frustrated when I see people trying to deter sex education from schools. It's a really bad thing.
The big thing too with what you were saying with that is the fact that, like, well, they say that the parent is supposed to teach it, but then who taught the parent? Right? Like, if they didn't learn it in school, they're being taught the same incorrect information. I'd also just heard of a horror story recently, that like this mother was blamed for pretty much just not taking care of 16 children, and she's getting all this blame. However, she was married into this family by 15 or 16, right? So she also had no background. Nobody knew the kids existed, but nobody knew she existed either. So they put the blame on her because she is now an adult, but also had no proper education or anything in the and the realm to show her what was right or wrong. You know, like she
Right.
was abused technically. Like she was so young when she had her first kid, sort of thing, by somebody that's a full grown adult who exploited her too. Like it's a it's a it's a pattern. Yeah.
Yeah, I find it just routed in pure ignorance and pure just like suffering avoidance calculus gone wild, that people are like they're worried about they're worried about like their children like being told to go have sex, like that somehow that's part of what sex education is. There's so much ignorance coming out of the minds of people when they talk about this topic. It's just unbelievable, and it's just like yeah, once people look at the overwhelming majority of sexual abuse cases and how they do happen in the home from parents or trusted people in the home, it's just quite easy to show that we need somewhere outside the home, somewhere that the child frequents, that would be able to administer this kind of education. I wanted to look at the so the American saves roughly $1,000 per year in direct income and payroll taxes on an average $75,000 income. And I'm just doing this tax like boiling it down to the actual dollars saved. How
did you come across the 75,000? Out of curiosity.
As an average, this is just an average pulled, just a general average across the country for household income.
Oh, that is the average in the U.S. I wasn't sure if it was or not because I thought it was a little lower, but
yeah, this is saying the average. Sure. This is actually saying so an average single worker, the direct income and payroll tax difference is roughly $1,000 annually per 75,000 earnings. Yeah, so it is putting the average at about 75,000. And then Canada about 81,000, but we're talking Canadian dollars versus US dollars. Okay, but I just wanted to see this last part. So okay. So basically in Canada, we pay for the individual, we're paying about 2,000. Oh, the average worker comes. The average Canadian pays about $3,000 more per year in income tax and payroll contributions. So at the end of the day, the question would be like, with all of these additional costs people have, like spending, if you don't have insurance, $15,000 to $25,000 or $30,000 per child to have in a hospital, and that's not even including like the free midwife services we have for the entire pregnancy in Canada. And like, isn't just looking at that issue alone enough for people in the United States to want to just like pay an extra $3,000 a year on average, based on the average income, so that you have complete universal health care, where you don't, if you want to have a kid or you break your leg or you need specific surgery, like all of that stuff is going to be free of charge, as opposed to getting like a $50,000 to $100,000 bill for a neck or brain surgery that you need, or all of this other stuff, having children. doesn't it make sense for everyone just to pay, whatever percentage more it would take to match what Canada does? I don't know. It seems pretty like easy calculus for me. Also, like just like the moral worth behind that, paying that extra. If you make $75,000 a year, paying that extra $3,000 annually, so that all the other people in your country who have much less than you can have a universal healthcare system. Like, this is just so connected to my goals and my meaning as a moral well-beingist. This one would be an easy sell for me if I was an American. But
yeah, but the people that individuals in America vote into office, there's not like a negative or positive correlation on them voting for or against what their constituents put them in there for. The correlation is that there is no effect that they will vote for what you are putting them in there for. They don't even consider you, basically, is what that connection is in the US. So yeah, for the average Joe, trust me, we want that insurance, but not the wealthy that's the super wealthy that really run things,
yeah, I mean, there's obviously many people in government that want universal basic healthcare, universal healthcare for individuals. There's a lot of them, but when is the United States going to realize that this should be viewed as a necessary human right for all citizens, and that people should not, like, if they get sick or want to have children, they shouldn't be worrying about the financial burden of these things, like people who are worried about like the declining birth rate and things like this. Like, don't you think one of the smart things to do, if you're worried about that, would be to figure out a system that isn't charging people who haven't been able to get insurance for whatever reason $15,000 to $25,000 to have a child? Like, it's just stupid. It's just ridiculous. Anyways, we don't want to get bogged down on this one thing today, because we are talking about meaning in general. Joker, what makes your life meaningful?
Yeah, so what makes my life meaningful? Yeah, that's why I was trying to not get into too much of that, because I have a lot of hot takes in regards to what I was talking about. But what makes my life meaningful is actually my partner primarily. So we have 10 animals that I take care of every day.
Sorry, did you say 10?
Yes.
Holy
yeah.
shit balls. What animals?
Yes. 7 dogs and 3 cats.
Wow.
Love it. Love it.
So we both started with 2 dogs when we met, right? And we got together, and then we just rescue animals that need homes, really. So like the 2 dogs I started with were aggressive, so I learned how to train dogs. Worked with them a lot. They're so much better now. Now we have those 2 who are 14-year-old German Shepherds, and then 5 siblings for them that all get along really well. And most of them were dangerous dogs, like history of being aggressive.
Right.
They get along with the dogs, the cats, everything. But like most of the meaning actually comes from my partner, because I struggle with my own illnesses, right? But she brings meaning into my life. She's the one that wants to rescue all these things. And I'm like, all right, I'm here for it. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, because I enjoy it, but
Yeah. No, that's really
Yes.
cool. Do you so if your partner wasn't there, let's imagine this, what would maybe be a difficult scenario for you because of what you just outlined. or we could imagine before you found your current partner,
Yeah.
do you recall ever having a transcending meaning that it could be a goal, it could be a statement, something you are on like a quest to do and achieve in your life that you think is more important than many other things?
So for me personally, yeah, I would say something that's like above, like in just the realm of what I think and believed wholeheartedly. One thing that I liked when I was a child was that idea of paying it forward, but I wanted to say like pay it forward with education, like information, kind of pass down knowledge to other people. That's always what I felt was super important to me personally, right? I'm not always the best at explaining myself, but I may lose specificity in what I'm saying, but I still try to get the generalized idea across that I think has value in some sort of way. Honestly, I think it's a lot of how you talk about your belief system in uh, helping well-being for the individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Mine is the same way.
Okay.
I usually just think of it in the sense of like I like to do it by spreading what I think is valuable knowledge or
Okay.
information
Yep.
in to them for that. Right.
Yeah, and
Sorry for the
it
rain.
might be the case. It might be the case that you are spreading that knowledge because you think it ultimately will help them. I would assume,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
you're not trying to spread information that would not
No.
cause detriment to other people. So you're helping them in some way. And yeah, so what kind of information, if you were to kind of maybe try to think of an example, would you want to pass on to people? What do you think
So
could be helpful?
honestly, so for me personally, I can't think of one right off the top of my head, personally, right? But I do typically find it in the realm of education, right? So what you were saying with the licensing idea, that would
Mm-hmm.
be a good example of it, truthfully, because it's got a purpose of spreading this information to educate the individuals how they can help their child, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yep.
So things like
Okay.
that. So just teaching in general, really.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, I think
but it
there's
can also be, yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of good that can come out of passing on useful information. That's one of the ways that I maximize well-being for myself and those around me. I learn new useful information and I pass on useful things that I think will be useful for maximizing one's physical, mental, and social health. So I think that's I think that's great. Arcion, what about you? What makes your life meaningful at the moment? I don't know if Arcion's at the computer. Okay, they said they're back, but yeah. Anyways, we are talking about meaning today. Some people like to say there is a meaning crisis. I actually don't think there is a meaning crisis, but I think there is an articulation crisis that is related to meaning. But go ahead, Arcion. Yeah, the question today is, what makes your life meaningful?
Well, that's the thing is that there are some things that make my life kind of meaningful, but I've been kind of feeling a bit of a dearth of meaning in my life. There's been a little bit of a little bit of a void, a little bit of an emptiness for a while
Mm-hmm.
that I've been trying to fill. And the hardest part is when you don't really know, when you don't really have a direction. Because if you have a direction, you have a path you can go down, and the destination may be maybe like years and years away from, but at least you feel like there's a reason to get up in the morning because you're moving towards something. I don't really know how to move in the direction per se, but I will say there are some things that kind of give me I'd say not the deepest of meaning in my life, but they give me something. One of them is is the pursuit of love, romantic love in my case. Like I don't have anyone I'm pursuing right now, but I am. But at my age, I'm looking for someone to be with, and what that's caused me to do is go down other routes that have caused me to be a better person. Like I'm losing weight, I'm and getting in shape. I'm am like actually learning. I'm trying to learn a little bit offhand about philosophy and and how to live a better life and be an overall better person, so I can be a better partner. I'm trying to get a better job. A lot of things are moving in that direction. A lot of things are moving in a positive direction for me because I want to eventually find someone to settle down with and have a deeper, meaningful connection with. So that's one, and I think the other one is my parents are kind of older. I'm in my 30s, so my parents are getting older. So as they grow older, one thing that gives me meaning is trying to repair some connections I had with them. As an adult, me and my parents, we didn't always see eye to eye. So, but I'm really trying to like fix that up. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah. That makes really good sense. And I mean, you mentioned the pursuit of love as a, kind of a transcending a higher level of meaning than many other things. Like, yeah, there's a reason why you stated it, because it's probably has more power than a lot of other things that give you meaning in your life. So that's a very common human pursuit, and I think it's really healthy. The question would be, once you surely you have in your mind the kind of love you're looking for, and the kind of things you want to see in a relationship. Have you thought about those kinds of things?
I have. Yeah, I've thought a lot about it, and I've thought that like the destination is not the most important thing. Like the journey is just as important. I think to getting into where I want to be with a romantic relationship. But once I have it, I still think things will be better than where I am now. I'm sure you're a married man, right, Travis?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you know how great it is to wake up next to someone you really have a deep connection with and that you care about, and have someone you can share things with that you can't share with other people, like and someone who's like your best friend and someone and you actually really find attractive, right? There's a lot more that just gets better in life when you have someone there with you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm seeking. I don't think the phrase bliss is a good descriptor because bliss is kind of fleeting and it's not really, I think, as deep as what I'm looking for. I think what I'm looking for is meaning, yeah, of some sort. Which I know is kind of the title of the stream, and it's a little bit ambiguous the way I'm using it because I don't know if I have the best language to describe meaning, but I do feel that it's like when you see it.
Yeah. Here's a bit of a thought experiment. So if you all of a sudden had $1 billion to spend on a great work for humanity, what direction would you go with regards to that spending, and why do you think you would go in that direction?
Well, $1 billion. So I know this is going to sound a little greedy, but it's actually very logical. The first thing I would do is invest in enterprises that can keep my money like continuously flowing in, because I don't feel that like there's been tons of billionaires around the world who have tried to make the world a better place, and some of them have done more good than others. But the problem is always that no one person really is enough to make enough of a difference where I feel that it really makes without needing a continuous replenishment of money. So I would start there, like maybe like how like buy a bunch of rental properties, but then from there, once I know that I have like something to replenish my funds when I'm spending it on philanthropy, from then on, I would be focusing on education of farmers and other and ranchers and other people who grow food in third world countries, because I feel that every society, we all need food, and on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you can't get the most basic needs fixed first, you can't go on to higher level needs like like self actualization and fulfillment and things like that. So I would want, and I have a bit of an issue with just giving people food by itself. Not because I don't think it's necessary, but I think that you do need to, but because giving people raw resources keeps them dependent on you, but giving them an education like on how to more effectively farm, more effectively ranch, and raise animals for food, I think gives them a much better chance of being able to become financially and food independent.
I think you need both things though, right? Like there are communities around the world that, I mean, they need enough food to keep them going in order to learn ways of helping their communities prosper in the future. So I do think you need both things.
Right. You got to do it correctly. And again, my focus would be like, I would make sure that everybody in a specific like country or community had enough to eat where they could survive, and everything else would be like, they could purchase at their local market, so that way that supports their local economy. But then, I focus a lot on making sure that, the most basic needs that a society has, the people there have a good education on how to do it, so that way they don't have to depend on things like a benevolent, superpower like the United States forever, because as we know, if you constantly depend on somebody else, all it takes is for them to have someone who's not so benevolent get into power, and they can use and abuse you and mistreat you. And we do that a lot of times, and a lot of superpowers do that to a lot of smaller nations that are resource rich.
Yeah, I mean, I think good philanthropy, like when we're looking and we're going to be building our first Pangburn Education Center in Uganda in 2027, and building in sustainability into the model is important. Sustainable food, sustainable water, electricity, these things it's really important to build these things into your philanthropic efforts, not just dropping off a truck full of food in the middle of Uganda or sub-Saharan Africa, wherever. But it's not that food isn't important, though, the food that you would drop off. But if you're planning projects, and my question was related to a great work, I think a great work includes in the kind of philanthropic efforts we're talking about, it would include sustainable things within the model that could serve the internal activities, but also the community externally. So yeah, I think
Right.
that you see a lot of importance in education, and I do too.
Yeah, especially the type of education that gets people's most basic needs able to be served by themselves. Because, like I said, I don't like it when superpowers abuse the stranglehold they have on people's resources to extract resources from those places, or mistreat the people that are there. We see this all the time, like slave labor, and underpaying workers, because you can, because they make more money out of your company than they would at a local company that's not owned by a company that's in a superpowers nation. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
A person can relocate all of their office work to sub-Saharan Africa and pay a tenth of what they would pay, locally in the United States for that.
Yeah, and again, like I said, I wanted like water infrastructure to be done, and water treatments, to make sure the water is clean and safe to drink, to be something that can be sustained by the local populace. I would want to educate people enough where they can like build their own electricity grid, and also have decent medicine, because I am very sympathetic to a lot of people in a lot of poor Asian, African, and South American countries who get diseases that here in the U.S. are so easy to treat, but they don't get treated because they're too poor to get them. And it really holds a lot of people back, and they can't develop their way out of poverty. But I think I've said enough.
Yeah, no, this is great stuff. That's what we're talking about today. So, who else wants to share their what makes their life meaningful? We have, who else do we have who hasn't spoken yet? I need to check on my phone because for some reason it gives me just the first letter of people's names here. Lucanus, Objective Ethics, Peter, Anarcho Cowboy. What makes your lives meaningful? Anyone? We've talked a lot about different things. Jack brought up.
Yeah, I'm happy to participate. I didn't want to cut the line though.
Yeah, no,
kind of a late joiner.
No, go ahead. Yeah, the floor is yours.
Yeah, for me, and I think this is a great question. I think it's something that everybody should really take time to think about, because meaning can give us so much, so much value in our lives, and also allow us to be valuable to other people's lives, which is really important. So for me, meaning is about living intentionally, focusing on balance, right? For myself and others. How much am I pouring into others? How much of my time and energy am I giving to myself, and trying to balance those things out? Controlling expectations, both of myself and others, and focusing on respect. For those of you who might have checked out my YouTube channel or might know me in other communities, I talk a lot about the key to happiness, and I believe it's built around respect. I'm known for saying that respect for the planet, respect for others, and self-respect are the bricks that we use to build the road that leads us to happiness. And I truly do believe that. So I try to really focus on long-term happiness, the kind of happiness that brings peace, as opposed to short, temporary, more elation and joy, but real happiness that's sustainable.
Very cool. And what kind of great works would you do with $1 billion at your disposal? What direction, maybe you would use it to create larger amounts of respect around the world, or what would you do with a buttload of money like that to create some kind of great work for humanity?
Well, as much as I love the philanthropic efforts internationally, trying to help out, underprivileged third world countries and stuff, and I am planning on being involved in supporting that Pangburn school effort, because I do think that these kind of outreach programs do have value. But if I were in a room brainstorming with a bunch of people that wanted to figure out what we could do with $1 billion, I would actually focus my efforts locally, and try to build something that sets an example of success, of improving the lives of as many people as possible. And so that other, organizations, other countries, other cities could look at that and say, wow, that really works. And it actually produces a lot of value for so many people, as opposed to, because a lot of times I've seen so many times in the past, and I've been part of so many nonprofit efforts that started out great, but ultimately failed because they weren't sustainable models. Right. And that's one of the problems with that. When it's local, you have a lot more control over that kind of stuff. And I would build a type of a community center that focuses on all ages, all sexes, all genders, all political views, provides a welcoming environment that can teach skills to people who are lacking, that can provide, inspiration for the arts, try to help out with lack of education that people might have. People might not have felt access to community, and really try to build a sense of community that's inviting, that welcomes people with different ideas, to promote diversity and show people that we we do want diversity. It's extremely important. We don't want to live in a world where everybody is in an echo chamber. So, as much as we want diversity, there are some fundamental things that we want to agree on, which is cooperation, right? If 10 people cooperated, among that 10 people, those 10 people, there would be no wars, no theft, no coercion, no crime because they've agreed to cooperate. And if we expand that thought model to 100 people, that logic still holds up. And if we expand it to everybody on the world decides to cooperate, we would effectively eliminate global wars, global hunger, crime, everything would just disappear instantaneously because we've got the root of the problem. And while complexity does add as you continue to add people to the thought, this thought experiment, the fundamental axioms, the principle still holds up. Because as long as cooperation holds up, the fundamental axiom holds up, right? And we could expand that to the entire universe and look at a cosmological model and say if every moral agent agreed to cooperate, then there literally would be no such thing as war, no such thing as famine, no such thing as poverty, because we've all agreed to cooperate. And so I think if we can, build these communities with these kind of just core principles, I think we could make a lot of improvements in the world.
I really like your community center idea. For me, I see, what you're talking about, cooperation, respect, all of these things I think fit into my well-being calculus of maximization of physical, mental, and social health. We can look at how the effect of positive respect on one's physical, mental, and social health, or the negative effects of negative or disrespect on someone's physical, mental, and social health. Because of my my moral quest to want to maximize these things for myself and those around me, I see great virtue in promoting those virtues. So, yeah, I mean, building community centers, building examples for humanity, these are needed. Some places they're needed more than other places. And I think it matters in considering that. But, there are people in need all over the world for the kind of thing you're talking about. And I do believe that centers of do-goodedness by well-articulated, well-founded axioms, moral quests, virtues, things like this, they are few and far between. When I think of the community center world in Canada, community centers in Canada do a lot of good, but the amount of people who engage with their community center, how many people the community centers actually serve compared to how many people are in the community, very, very small percentage. So a question would be, how do we get more people incentivized to engage with their community centers? This is something that I think a branch of philosophy in government could help with. Help incentivizing, good faith, helpful communication in communities and creating, community engagement events that are of much larger scale and much greater interest than the kinds of things we see already in this space. There's some really good things happening in community centers, but it needs to be expanded and made more kind of more quench the appetite of the general population.
I just follow up on that really quick, and then I'll turn the microphone over to the next person.
Mm-hmm.
There's two things about that. First of all, when it comes to this sense of community, one of the most glaring problems that I see in what we might refer to as the skeptic community, atheists and agnostics in particular, there really isn't a suitable, in many cases, a replacement for the sense of community that religious organizations offer to people. And I think that's something that's really lacking. So I think that a lot of people may not go to a community center because they feel like they're getting a lot of that at their local church or their mosque or whatever it might be. So I think addressing that and helping people to understand that we actually want everybody coming together. Isn't
Yes.
just a place for skeptics. It's not just a place for religious people. It's literally a place for we really all inclusive, because we really want to avoid the collective ignorance that comes from being in our echo chambers, right? We need that pushback.
Yeah, and that's
The
what
other thing I'd like
Pangburn. I just want to say yes, and or yes, that is what we've been trying to do with Pangburn since the beginning for 10 years now, is bring people from all around the world, different backgrounds, together to try to build great works together. Those can come in the form of great, important conversational works. They can be philanthropic endeavors. They can be what happens in this community all the time. People from different parts in the world helping others financially, in other ways to help serve their purposes in their lives. Thomas, myself, and many other people in this community have seen it with our own eyes, over the past 6 years since we've had this Discord community, that, there has been a lot of interdependence and support that has been, spread far and wide by way of our communities to one another, and externally by way of Pangburn out into the community by way of food giveaways and other philanthropic efforts that have been supported and headed by people in this community. So the problem with this is making this kind of endeavor more popular than the low resolution stuff. The constant repeated, and I'm going to pick on the atheist and secular community for a minute, but the overindulgence and constant repeated beat down of the theists calling into shows to talk about theism, or get called, talked down to by the atheist host, and then the atheists cheer and then move on to the next person to shit on. Not that all shows are shitting on people, but there is more there are more important things to be doing in the world than that. And I feel as atheists and secularists, we spend a lot of time and resources doing that very thing. And I think too much, partly because it's very popular and people want to watch it. They want to listen to it. They want, but just because this satisfies what I would say, low resolution tendency we have toward entertainment, there are much more high resolution goals out there, like actually fundraising and building important educational infrastructure, or food infrastructure, or all kinds of different things that we could be dedicating a lot of this energy towards. And I also I truly believe that the bringing togetherness of everyone, regardless of your beliefs or background, and having an environment that is constrained by something important that allows things to build and continue to build, like in the Pangburn universe, the same things that Sam Harris, Jordan Peterson, Brian Greene, Matt Dillahunty, Richard Dawkins, Lawrence Krauss, all of the people who've ever appeared on the Pangburn stage have agreed to the Pangburnian constraints on the battlefield, which are good faith and helpfulness. And by good faith, I simply mean honesty and sincerity of intentions. And you must do your best to try and give a helping hand to your community members or your interlocutors. And I have found that this as a necessary constraint allows the debate bros, the Phil bros, the atheists, the secularists, the firebrand atheists, the Christians, the firebrand Christians, the Muslims, all of these people to coexist. But it does take an acceptance of some cooperation, like you talked about objective ethics, in order to make these things work. And I do agree with that part that you were getting at, that there does need to be some acceptance of ground rules at some level in order for community centers and projects like this to be able to work.
There's actually a lot to unpack there, and I want to be respectful to everybody and give up my time here. But just if I may, there was one other thing I wanted to bring up, and I just want to one follow up comment to that, because I see that a lot. And being a person that's never been religious, I'm kind of in a unique position because most skeptics, atheists, and agnostics are actually former theists.
Yeah, I'm like you.
So,
I'm like you, by the way. I've never belonged to a religion. I've never believed in the existence of God. So you and I are the same in that regard.
it is a different paradigm for us.
Do you think that there's so much pushback?
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, if you have more to say, I'm so sorry.
Go ahead. I didn't. Sorry, Jenner just showed up at the door, so I hope that's not too much background noise. But and I need to go eat. But I mentioned respect, and I think I really hammer down on that a lot, because I'm of the mindset that you cannot respect or love yourself more than you respect or love others, and that's a two-way street. Other people will not love or respect you more than you love or respect yourself. I believe any other relationship is going to be asymmetrical or parasocial even. And so that self-respect gives you a sense of self-worth. And that's what makes life.
Can you clarify something with that statement?
Of course.
Do you are you saying that that's the way it ought to be, or are you saying that that's the way that it is?
I believe that.
Yeah,
my belief is that's actually the way it is. I actually believe that, like, if you have a relationship where you don't respect yourself, other people who really care about you are just enabling you in an unhealthy
I see what you're saying.
situation. You know what I mean? It's not to say that they don't respect the humanity within you, but when it comes down to actually self-worth, what are you really bringing into the world? What value do you have as a human being? I think all of these things come into play, and I find it difficult to believe that any relationship that doesn't include mutual respect or mutual love isn't asymmetrical or even parasocial, depending on the circumstances. And I could be wrong about that, but that's just how I view things.
I just wanted you to clarify, to understand what you were saying. That's all.
And I just think the last thing, and I will step away here. Thank you so much, by the way, for everyone for letting me speak. But I do think that, when it comes to this battleground that we see on the internet, and in debates, they're so performative as opposed to looking to exchange good information, possibly learn from your interlocutor. I think it's really problematic. But I think when you actually look at the psychology of the people involved, for one thing, you have the deconstructionists, which are the majority of atheists and agnostics, are people who have come out of what I see as being a cult. Frankly, I don't mean to be disrespectful when I say that, but I don't see the practical difference between an organized religion and a cult. And we know when we study these things in psychology that there's a lot of trauma. In fact, there's something that psychology talks about. It's called religious trauma syndrome. And this is a real thing. So there's this damage that people are experiencing. So it's perfectly natural to understand that they're going to be lashing out. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying that we can understand the symptoms, right? The cause of these symptoms. And on the other side of that, you've got this something that feeds into us as people, that there are people out there who like to see the blood sport. They like to see the antagonism. They like to see the conflict for some reason. So you've got a couple of different elements that are feeding into that problem. And I do think it is a huge problem. It's the us versus them, our guy versus their guy, whatever it might be, my world versus your world view, so to speak. And I think that you have to separate each one of those and say, okay, we got to take the root of the problem and realize that there's many different roots, coming up together like a field full of different types of weeds. You can't just go after one. You've got to really address each individual problem. But to be productive, you can't do it without that element of respect. That's a great place to start, right?
Yes.
Thank you very much,
Okay.
you guys, for letting me speak. I'll just be listening now from here. But thank you so much. Nice to be here.
Okay, yeah, it was a pleasure.
Um,
That
yeah, go ahead, Moloch, and then we'll move on to
yeah, I
the
just
next
want to
meeting.
unpack
Yep.
some of that.
Yep.
I get that is a conflict within myself often, because in some ways it's like self-soothing, like I have MAGA family members, right? And in some weird way it's like self-soothing to like hate the things that they think, right? Because then I can just like watch like Pangburn or like Destiny or Vosh or whoever like debate them, and then it's like it gives me like a sense of how do you say this, like a hug box almost, because it's like, oh, like
Yep.
other people feel like I do about this, like there's a sense of vindication, right?
Mhm.
But then it's like the conflict is like, okay, like mutual respect, blah blah blah, but at some point, like it's like Hitchens said back in the day, like, don't you want victory over them at some point versus like that's where I get the conflict of like do you persuade people to move them, or like sometimes you want victory over them, right?
Well, yeah,
Like,
I mean, what does victory look like? This is going to pull at your meaning, your purposes, like what ultimately is causing you to debate a theist just to get them to change their mind and agree with you. I think that would be a very sad thing if that's why
no,
that's why people are doing that. I mean, ultimately, when people are having conversations with people on disagreeable topics, I would hope they ultimately want the best for that other person's well-being, their physical, mental, and social health.
Okay, to address that, like theism itself, like I don't really necessarily have like an inherent problem with it, but I find a lot of groups that are harmful are usually like insular. Like these are just patterns I see on different like just research that I've done, right? Like they tend to be insular. They tend to have very strong roles within the household, like stuff like this, right? And it's like, I don't know if that's a byproduct of. I'm not saying that it's not. I'm just saying like I don't know if it's like because of Christianity or if it's because of like the culture that their religion like helps it perpetuate. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So like I don't I don't feel the way like Dillahunty does or like Hitchens does. Like I don't like have at it. Like if you want to believe that stuff, like that's fine. It's just like when it's meaningfully harmful to the social collective or even to the family unit, I think then that's when it's a problem. But it's like I don't, like people believe in astrology. Who cares?
Okay.
Like what's it to me? I don't know.
All right. Moloch, before we move on to someone else, we are asking what makes your life meaningful today. How would you answer that question?
Ooh, that is so hard. I don't want to pivot into like the psychology session, but what makes life meaningful today
for you? Yeah,
I don't know. Like I don't know, like enjoying the time that I have, like as much as that's like.
Yeah, and how do you do that? What do you find? How do you find? What do you find enjoyment in?
Well, it was my first day off in a while, and I like really appreciate them now because it's like it just doesn't happen as much as it used to, And I'm working on this like cyberpunk, like I'm crafting this like cyberpunk chess.
Oh, cool.
It's gonna have like this light around it, but I was using a Dremel, and it takes forever. But I like enjoy like. How do you say it? Like the kinesthetic, like crafting of it,
Okay.
And like just hanging out with my fiance, blah blah,
Yeah, that kind of stuff. If you were, this is kind of a question I've been tossing around, but if you,
what?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, my brother speak.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
What am I talking about? You just asked me to speak.
What makes your life meaningful?
What makes my life meaningful? I suppose creativity. I suppose I have everything.
Kids?
Kids, yeah. I suppose you pass on the DNA. That's always important.
Mm-hmm.
Is it?
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't want to pass on that.
creativity and some kind of art in your life, I think is kind of important.
Yeah. So why
You know what's bad?
just one second, Malak. So
Yeah,
why what's your brother's name, Peter?
Paul. This is
Paul.
Paul.
Peter and Paul. Wow.
Two little diggy birds.
We're before the holy ones themselves.
Aha.
So Paul, why do you think you find meaning in any of this stuff? Like what is it ultimately serving?
Well, it's not on a scientific basis. It's not really serving anything really, other than a selfish kind of satisfaction. Because on a scientific level, I suppose once you pass on your DNA, that's kind of the science.
Yeah, you believe you're talking about egoism, where we're serving, ultimately engaging in self-actualization or self-satisfaction, and yeah, I think that is true. That we are pursuing fundamentally our desires, born of our sentiments. I agree with that.
One thing that
no,
sorry, I would say, like, one thing that having kids does is that, like, it makes you more selfless, because you have to look after somebody else.
Yeah, but then it locks you into, like,
regardless of how you feel. It doesn't matter how you feel the next day.
Aspect to that. There is a selfish kind of on a really basic scientific kind of like view. There is a very it's a very DNA, like it's a very kind of like instinctual selfishness to that, about kind of like passing on your DNA and make sure your kids. But eventually, it is kind of selfishness in a way.
Well, it's selfish is more tribal, in a sense. It seems to, for me, it's like, I got to do what I got to do, regardless of how I feel that day.
Yeah, it's pretty normal to have that kind of innate feeling that to prop your children's well-being up as primary, for example. It seems luckily that is the norm. There are, of course, times where that gets defunct or isn't the case, which is quite scary and terrifying. But yeah, I mean, I can feel that as well, that when it comes to my children, there's just no question about where they sit on the hierarchy of things. They are number one. But their well-being is primary. But I just want to add one thing to that quickly, Peter, is that this all, including where my children fit, all fits into my moral quest to maximize well-being for myself and those around me. It's just that my children, when it comes to those around me, my children get that primary service, and and it's agreed between my wife and I that the children's well-being is primary to ours, and then for me, my wife's is after that. But I also recognize that I need to maintain high levels of maximizing my own well-being to be able to serve those purposes. So it's you can't forget about the self. That's why I always mention with my moral quest that I am out to maximize well-being for myself and those around me. But we inevitably do build hierarchies of where we apply our attention primarily, and build those hierarchies of application.
But what I was going to say is, like, when your woman has her first child, you're playing catch up as a male.
In what way?
hormones and shit kick in way quicker than yours do. Well, I don't know. Men have to go and actually make a decision.
Yeah.
I would say I wouldn't say it's a decision, but it does take a little bit of time for
Mm.
you males to kick in as a father when
It
as a
pushes you
woman,
into adulthood. Yeah.
as a female, when they have a kid, like it's fucking all the shit's there.
I mean,
Because they have
yeah,
Did
I
you
don't
notice
know.
that?
I
Has
mean,
anyone noticed that?
I think it's. I'm not sure that that's generally true. I think it can be true, but
that's usually.
I
true.
mean, well,
Yeah.
not
think a
based
lot
on
of
not
it's
not
sexual,
not
you know.
not based on the research I've seen. Like, there's this assumption that like
What are you researching? You mean?
Well, I'm talking about the biological differences between males and females, and
Oh, I don't
how
mean it
that
that way.
plays out.
What
Hang on,
psychological?
All right.
and how
All
that
right,
plays
all
out practically when children are born. Does it necessarily mean that the female is going to be more equipped with knowing what to do than the male?
Yeah.
I haven't seen any
Yeah.
research to suggest that that is the case.
I don't know if that.
No, they are.
They are.
They are.
They
I don't know
are.
if
They are.
Yeah,
Hold on.
like in most Western societies, that the woman will be kind of, in a sense, no, not like directly, but subconsciously and like from society to be groomed to have.
From my perspective, it's about you end up suddenly you're learning. They've got a master's and you're studying for a degree.
Well,
You know what I mean? Like,
that's another. I mean,
it's-
that's another assertion, but I think we should look at what's known
yeah, no,
with regards to
like,
the biological facts here.
No,
What I meant, like to clarify, what I meant is like, okay, like having a kid, for most men, I don't know if the statistics on this is like probably anecdotal, but like I would like to believe that having a child for a man kind of pushes them into adulthood in a way that is different than like women. I think.
woman might
Yeah,
already be there.
that's a different that's a different that's a different claim.
Yeah, true.
I'm gonna
making
read
their
some. I want to
Yeah,
I want to
I'm
read
not making
some.
the claim that
Yeah, I just want to read some information. So females. So one sec, Peter.
An opinion, like
One sec, Peter.
Let him-
If you could just mute for a second.
it wasn't me, it was him.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Paul, Peter, Paul, Abraham. Females are not necessarily more prepared to parent than males merely by virtue of being female. The word necessarily here makes the claim far too strong. There's an important distinction. So biological preparation for childbirth and newborn care. A woman who undergoes pregnancy, birth, and lactation experiences biological changes that can give her an average initial advantage in certain aspects of early infant care, including hormonal changes involving oxytocin, prolactin, estrogen, and cortisol, heightened responsiveness to infant signals, physical preparation for breastfeeding, months of direct psychological interaction with the fetus. Pregnancy, therefore, biologically prepares the gestational mother for some tasks in a way that the father cannot experience identically. But this does not establish that females are inherently better prepared for parenting overall. So parenting capacity.
That's exactly what I'm talking. What you just explained there is exactly what I'm talking about. But it's very strong.
Okay, because I thought the claim. Was. I thought no. See, now you're saying something different than what I just read, because you're saying that like males are playing some kind of catch-up game to where females are at. That's not what I just read.
But we don't have any hormonal changes when the baby's born. They do.
Yes, we do. So I'm going to go through that information right now. So parental capacity is highly experience dependent. So fathers also undergo measurable hormonal, neurological, and psychological changes during the transition to parenthood. Testosterone, oxytocin, prolactin, cortisol, and brain responses can change as men become involved caregivers. Crucially, these adaptations appear to be influenced substantially by how much direct indirect caregiving the father performs. So research
Okay,
comparing
how long
primary.
does that take?
Just hang on. Yeah, there's more information to read. So research comparing primary caregiving fathers with mothers suggests that the parental brain is remarkably plastic. In one influential study, primary caregiving fathers showed integration of emotional processing and cognitive caregiving systems resembling the broader maternal caregiving network. In other words, regular responsibility helps produce parental preparedness rather than merely revealing a fixed sex-specific ability. So
Regular responsibility. There you go. Training.
well, yeah, that's not.
Yeah.
I don't think that's training. But
Training.
female
Training.
alone tells us very little about an individual, right? So a woman who has never cared for an infant is not automatically more competent than a man who has raised several children. Some mothers are unprepared, neglectful, frightened, depressed, or uninterested. Some fathers are highly attentive, knowledgeable, patient, and emotionally responsive. The strongest predictors of effective parenting are things such as emotional responsiveness and sensitivity, stability and commitment, practical knowledge, time spent caring for the child, mental and physical health, social and economic support, willingness.
There we go.
This is for Peter. This isn't just for you. This is for the whole stream and everyone else. So let me finish the reading and then we can talk about it. Willingness to learn and place the child's needs first. Research on different family structures also indicates that children's well-being is not dependent upon every family containing a female parent. The quality and stability of caregiving matter more than the parent's sex alone. The most defensible conclusion is that females who undergo pregnancy possess specialized biological preparation for things like gestation, birth, lactation, and certain aspects of immediate newborn care. Women may also show some average sex-linked predispositions toward infant responsiveness, but biology does not make females more prepared to parent than males, nor does it establish female superiority across parenting as a whole. So I personally don't think that there's good evidence to support this idea that like males are playing catch up with regards to females. But
okay, have you experienced it?
Well, yeah, but that's anecdotal. Like,
Yeah, but he has a point.
He has a point, yeah, of course. But
I mean,
but there,
for me,
there is a.
For me, Peter,
Okay,
it just I didn't my experience, I didn't feel that at all. Like I was playing catch up with my wife. Like we were just a team in all of it. And yeah, but I noticed that like yeah, with regards to those few categories that we mentioned, like for early infant care and things like that, obviously the hormonal boosts that my wife was getting, also with regards to attentiveness, like she was able to sleep in bursts in a way that she's not able to sleep in bursts normally, but because of what her hormones were doing, she's able to get these quick sleeps in because feeding's every 2 to 3 hours, right? So it's like like that kind of stuff I completely agree that like if that's what you're meaning,
those biological conditions they're not as in to raise a child. Those biological conditions are there to help the birth mother to recover from having birth.
Oh yeah, like yeah, that's the other part, like the recovery aspect for the birthing mother, and some females recover much easier than males, and some have have a difficult time. Okay, yeah, fair enough. Okay. It just seemed more generalized in the way that it was stated, but
no, I didn't mean like, but I just said that they were generally more equipped than men were. I felt like I was lagging behind.
Okay.
Their ability to deal with certain things.
Fair enough. I haven't experienced that yet. I'm on kid 2, and my oldest is a year and 6 months. So,
but I'm not saying that. Okay, carry on. But you had a second one when? You just had a second one recently, right?
Yeah, 16 days ago.
Oh.
Yeah.
Girl or boy?
She's a little girl.
Either.
A girl. You got a gentleman's family.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I have
Like
a
me,
proper boy and a
boy and a
proper
girl,
girl.
straight bang bang, one after the other. That's what
I have
happened.
a
She's gonna be kicking the shit out of him
My
in
son,
about
my son already
7 or 8
knows.
years.
My son already knows how to punch me in the nuts. So that important goal has been taken care of.
what is there research on
Oh, she'll fuck him. She
nah,
will
sorry.
fuck him up.
Is there research
Go
on like
Go
sexual
ahead.
development when it comes to uh like courtship and like how people interact that way? Like because like in my own experience, like I feel like girls like know implicit things at younger ages than men do, or like pick up on certain things
Yeah, I
at
mean,
earlier stages than men do.
I mean,
Stuff like that. I was wondering.
yeah, you might want to look that up and see. I'm sure there is. I don't want to get
I
too
was wondering if
bogged.
you knew.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head, honestly. But I would say there's almost certainly great research on that. Trey,
Yeah.
what about you, Trey? What makes your life meaningful? Welcome back, by the way.
Oh, thank you. What makes my life meaningful? Living for Jesus,
Okay.
because that encompasses everything else in my life. So I try to be nice when I could be a huge jerk. I try to be nice, though it doesn't always work all the time. Like, for example, when I was a infantry officer, there's not niceness is not really a virtue there.
You seem like a pretty and I'm trying to imagine you as a infantry officer. What were some of the things that you would have to do? Would you have to like carry out discipline and things like that?
Oh yeah, 100%. I'd have to write Article 15s. I'd have to do physical training with the guys daily. And man, I'd eat you up, man. Like if you're not ready, oof, you better get ready.
That's interesting.
And that's also more of my NCO's job as an officer. You know, we're a little bit more gentlemanly, as you'd say, but not really. Like when the NCOs need some help, I'm there.
Interesting. So yeah, so you as a Christian, you ground a lot of your meaning in Jesus. But if we were to go like one step down from that, what are some of those other things you would outline? You know, family, friends being the obvious ones. Do you have any other purposes you try to serve that maybe you've gotten from elsewhere, but you know, maybe they're also coherent with trying to you know, please Jesus with your life? Like, are there any other things you would point to?
Other than that, I mean, I try to be the best I can be at what I do, no matter is what I'm doing. So, like when I was an infantry officer, try to be the best infantry officer I can be. Try to be the best leader I can be. Try to be the best soldier I can be, and that entails, you know, being disciplined, and being a warrior, and now, you know, whatever profession I take, that's what my life is, I think, you know, aside from the first two things you said.
Right. And what does a great work look like to you? Like if you fell into, you know, $1 billion and it must only be spent on like a great work for humanity, where are you going to put that money? What are you going to put that money towards?
What do you mean a great work for humanity?
Well, what you could think about it this way, like if you were to, with those resources, where would you spend those resources in a way that you think would cause Jesus to be pleased with the goodness you did with that money?
Well, Jesus, from what I know, doesn't care about money or doesn't care about goods that you do.
He
just
cares
wants you
about
to
healing
believe
the
in him.
sick, no?
Well, he heals the sick himself, but he just wants you to believe in him whether you're sick or whether you're not sick.
Okay. So, okay, Jesus wants you to believe in him. Then how would you know what good to do with that money that is given to you, and you have to do something like altruistic or something for humanity with that money? What would you choose to do?
Look, I could say that I would donate it to a church, but I've personally never done that. So I
Okay.
don't think I'll do that. Even though, that money that goes to the church, that goes towards their budgets to doing missions and doing stuff like that. But people come to Jesus by means of their own heart and mind. So what would I do with you said $1 billion?
Yeah, $1 billion to do something good for humanity.
Okay. First of all, that's a ridiculous amount of money. I mean, some cities don't even have that, So $1 billion.
You'd be amazed how quick it would go. Like if you took $1 billion even to sub-Saharan Africa, you'd be like, I'm going to be able to change it all. But you'd be surprised how quick it would go. Yeah.
Well, I think the New York City budget was like 130 billion. Somebody please correct me if I'm wrong. But most cities that don't have 11 million people don't have budgets in the billions. That's probably most cities are in the millions. So what would I do with $1 billion? God dang. I would do. I guess I would promote rural infrastructure, because a lot of rural places are going without things. I used to live in a town where the nearest hospital was 45 minutes away. There was an urgent care that was maybe like 20 minutes away, but 45 minutes is a big deal to go to a hospital. So I would promote rural infrastructure to where hopefully they don't have to drive. People don't have to drive 45 minutes to get to their hospital.
And so you would, when you say rural infrastructure, you would, this is kind of the great work you would give. You would give these, sorry, are you talking about housing, or are you talking about like kind of, what are you talking about?
Well, let's say hospitals.
Okay.
That's a big one.
Yep.
Maybe
you could build a small hospital for $1 billion in the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably build one for less than that, I'm sure, in like a rural area.
If you look at the costs like in the U.S. to build things like that, it's shocking. It is shockingly expensive to build a hospital.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I would look into just advancing rural infrastructure like that, stuff like that. If it's just one hospital, then at least it's one hospital. But the other things, maybe like repairing roads.
What about more immediate needs? Like, I like the health. I mean, I love the focusing on the health. A great work for humanity. Another hospital in the USA where there's already a lot of hospitals. Shouldn't we be looking outside the USA? Like more impoverished nations, maybe?
Well, sure. The U.S. does send a lot of money everywhere, though. So I think based on my allegiance to the U.S., I would focus more on the U.S. And, then maybe Mexico. I have family in Mexico. And Mexico is generally a poor country. I remember crossing the bridge, and there was little kids always selling chiclets, and I could have easily been that kid, but instead I was the kid in the vehicle, you know. So, but generally, my allegiance is to the U.S. So I would promote in the U.S.
Do you think Jesus's allegiance is to the U.S.?
No, he is for the world.
So I feel like Jesus wouldn't have approved of your USA centric view there.
I don't think he would approve of a lot of things I've done, to be honest.
Okay.
That's why
But
I rely on grace and
yeah.
forgiveness, and the biggest thing I rely on as a Christian is grace, and I just believe in Him and
Okay.
believe that He died for my sins.
Yeah, I mean, and we are talking about meaning today, and I want to try to push at where we can see how, you know, rational the stated meaning is to the stated, you know, great work. Is there any good reason to believe that Jesus would be more satisfied with the goodness you've done? And I know you say, I think Jesus cares. I mean, I think Jesus cares more, and I think there's evidence that Jesus cares more than just believing in him. You don't think so?
No, that's literally what the Christian doctrine is. Like, if you believe in Jesus Christ, that you believe that He died for your sins, and that He resurrected, and you basically have the free gift of salvation.
I'm not talking about the free gift of salvation, but don't you think Jesus still understands, like, or would care about acts beside that? I'm not I'm not talking about salvation. Like, you're talking about, in order to achieve salvation with Jesus, you need this. Sure. But I think, like, when people are trying to live by Jesus's example, isn't that people trying to embody other virtues of Jesus as well?
Like forgiveness and stuff like that. Sure.
Yeah, forgiveness. I would say Jesus is also trying to maximize well-being, physical, mental, and social health for people around him in the Gospels.
Yeah, I mean, the people around me are Americans, so.
Well, that's only if your circle is confined to that wide. Like, I think Jesus, I think Jesus would you know, argue that, you know, if you fall into resources like this, and you look at Jesus's example, and you try to think of Jesus in you know, in modern day, and what Jesus would do in this contemporary example with the money, I think it's a reasonable question to ask.
I think half of it would be taxed, and then like 25% of it would go overseas of that tax, and then with the rest of the tax, I can build one hospital. if you're trying to be real, if you like, do you think the best way to do it would be to put out a list of like third world countries and then divide the $1 billion by all third world countries, and then like spread the money out that way?
I mean, for me, what I do in this kind of situation, I look around where, you know, where there are the greatest well-being catastrophes happening that could be solved by implementing resources. For example, it wouldn't make a lot of sense to go to a country that was at war with itself and try to implement infrastructure and try to get, you know, I mean, you could try to provide resources, let's say, to like a Palestine or something like that with things that are going on. So that is, I guess, one thing you could do. But there are like places around the world right now where children are dying starving deaths. And you know, I think those are an obvious priority to me as a moral well-beingist, not building another you know, hospital to make it more convenient for people in the United States of America.
Okay. Well, I mean, I would use the money to help my people, and my people is in the United States. I'm not against helping other people. Um, I would look at a, I would maybe look at some opportunities. Have you ever read the book Mountains Beyond Mountains?
Nope.
Okay, there's a guy, Paul Farmer. Some rich guy from like the Northeast donated a few $1 million to him, and he ended up making a huge public healthcare system in Haiti to combat tuberculosis, because the Haitians were really I guess they were not exposed to modern medicine, so they kind of relied on older style of medicine. Well, Paul Farmer went down there and he kind of did a lot of healthcare promotion down there. So, I mean, all it takes is like a few $1 million to give away to like some super dedicated doctors that can go to a different country and make a huge difference.
Yeah.
He also went to Russia, I think, and he did a lot of tuberculosis work there too. He basically, if I remember correctly, he made it so that the treatment for tuberculosis, they used the second level of antibiotics against them instead of the first level. So things like this, things that are
That's
like
awesome.
people are way better equipped than me to do this kind of healthcare stuff. I'm not against donating, this made up $1 billion to people like that that are going to do a much better job than I would.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that's wise. It kind of reminds me of what Bill Gates has done with malaria in Africa, eliminating it completely from certain countries. Yeah, Nate, don't spam the chat, please. Like, have a little self control, if you would.
Oh, is that the Buck guy? Oh my god! Oh
Yeah.
yeah, something's going on with him, bro. Get some. Jeez Louise.
Anyways, so yeah, I mean, I think that part you just talked about, that example, I think sounds more rational to the purposes of, wanting to maybe live as by Jesus's example, or if you derive meaning from Jesus, like that seems coherent to me based on my understanding. And I also take into consideration like this idea that there are a lot of Christians out there like who think that their Christianity is complete so long as they accept Jesus as their Lord and Savior. I think that's very dangerous, though. They think somehow they've done good in the world just because they've accepted Jesus as their Lord and Savior. Very,
That's
very
a
dangerous
problem.
idea. Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you. That's a problem that I see in Christianity as well. You're telling me like, somebody as evil as Hitler, all he had to do was accept Christ as his Lord and Savior, and then he'd be in heaven with the rest of like everybody else. Like that's something that I have to
I'm not
deal
worried.
with and kind of reconcile as well.
I'm not,
but
yeah, Trey, I'm not worried more about that. I'm worried about like, I'm not saying you are like this, but like someone like you might say, yeah, my overarching meaning for my entire life is to accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. It's like, well, you've already accepted it. Now what good are you going to do? And then I'll ask them certain scenarios of like when you fall into money, and then they start talking about like nationalism and things like this that I think are, kind of poisonous. And
the way they get around that, if I may, once you accept Christ, your works kind of show for you, and that's the kind of stuff that you're talking about. Like, what would you do to improve well-being around you? Once you accept Christ as your Lord and Savior, basically, your life, it manifests like the works around you show that, or the works around you prove that you accept Christ as your Lord and Savior.
But I don't think, Trey, that they proved it in how you thought USA first. That's the irrationality I'm seeing. Like, I don't see how that is the Jesus good or the Christian good pouring out of you in the answer that you gave.
Well,
and maybe I'm just wrong about this.
It was my initial answer, I would say.
Okay.
And that would be like the first thing I'm looking to. I don't think the first thing that I would look to, first of all, it probably wouldn't even happen. Let's say that $1 billion fell upon me. Like, I don't even know how I would go about notifying everybody that I have $1 billion. They wouldn't believe me that I had $1 billion. I'd have to show up to places and show them that I do have $1 billion. But like I said with Paul Farmer, he coordinated with people and he met rich people basically. So somebody would have to, like a doctor would have to meet me that has this mission to go abroad and help people. And then I'd be like, dude, here's 50 million, do whatever you got to do. Because a billion is a ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah. Yeah. There's, but like I said, like even when I run a quick analysis on how far $1 billion goes in sub-Saharan Africa today, a balanced, $1 billion program might look like this, 400 million for emergency food and cash, roughly 13 to 14 million people supported for 3 months at the conservative WFP benchmark. So 400 million supports 13 to 14 million people for 3 months.
You're not going to be able to save everybody, Travis. You know that, right?
Of course not. I'm not talking about that at all. So this is like kind of what my system put together is like I'll just add this as well. So balance of 1 billion, 250 million for severe malnutrition screening and treatment, approximately 2.3 to 3.7 million children, 150 million. Sin, can you please, I know you might have something to say, but if you could mute, I'm just getting background noise from you. Thank you. We'll bring Sin in next. 100 million for safe water sanitation, cholera control, 100 million for shelter, transport, warehousing, security monitoring, and local humanitarian staff. This is something that I would probably look at doing if I had the $1 billion and then implement things generally like this where it's needed most.
So, okay, you would send the money where it's needed most.
Yes, I also have like when it comes, I also do have a hierarchy when it comes to these general decisions. Like if I'm a philanthropist thinking generally, I do I do make primary children's safety and health when it comes down to looking at what's most important. If we're looking at elderly, middle age, teenage, or early adult, teenage, and children, I do make children primary in that calculus, but it doesn't mean we exclude everyone else. But yeah, I mean, do you think it's important to make children primary with regards to our children who are starving to death or dying of preventable disease and things like this?
Yeah, my thing is you would send it to where it's needed most. So I think you live in Mexico now. So like, what would you tell the Mexican people that were to come up to you and say you had $1 billion and you sent it to other people? Why are you letting my child starve to death?
I would tell them that my moral quest is to maximize well-being for myself and those around me, and in this case, the maximal amount of well-being that I can improve, especially by way of children in sub-Saharan Africa. This is where I think the money was best spent. And I would also say to this person that walked up to me that, I am also engaging in philanthropic efforts within this country, and I would like to, I would want to have a conversation with them about how we could help their child as well. I wouldn't dismiss their needs.
Okay, yeah, and the point of that is like you're not going to be able to save everybody.
Yeah, of course.
You could probably, I guess, through your positive utilitarianism, you want to help the most, and that's probably
not necessarily the most. It's in this situation, like, because obviously I could spread this $400 million for the emergency food and cash. I could spread that over, an extra 100 million people, right? But it's about, the point is to get people thriving as opposed to just surviving, or in the worst cases, people who are dying and getting them to a state of surviving and then to a state of thriving. It's not enough to simply give people survival. From my perspective as a moral well-beingist, we gotta get them to thrive. I don't think human beings want to simply survive. I think they want to thrive. Yeah.
And I think it might be just the love for my country that differs the decision making between you and I. I just love my country so much, and I joined the military to serve my country, and I do believe that my country is exceptionally good at, well, we're very good at war, and we're also very good at sending money to other places. So that might be why you and I kind of have a difference in where we would send the money.
I mean, that can sometimes be true about the United States of America, but like if we look at the comparison to the GDP of how much aid has been sent to the Ukrainians, for example, like the United States of America is not doing good by, when comparing the percentage of, funding that's being sent over, comparing that to their GDP. So I think like there are cases where I can see that I think the United States should be doing more.
Are you talking about per capita?
Well, per GDP, yeah.
Like per capita, the U.S. sends less than other countries. What you're saying?
Yeah, you can say per capita, but yeah, the per GDP is more accurate. But
like per capita by GDP, because I believe the U.S. has sent more money to the Ukraine than any other country.
Yeah, it's not about more money though. It's about like. Yeah, I mean, you can say, yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
You can say that.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, and I don't think the United States also has a perfect track record anywhere close to with regards to the kind of military and other kinds of aid they've sent around the country. Empowering people that they eventually had to, go to war with, etc. So
yeah, I mean, we helped Afghanistan when they were fighting the Soviets, and then 20 years later, we're fighting Afghanistan. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely not perfect.
Yeah, I mean, there's different examples of that, but yeah. Anyways, we don't have to go too deep into that. But I mean, yeah, the thing today is I want to pick at and nitpick at a little bit the rationality and the connection between one's stated, the meaning in their life, what gives them meaning, their purposes, and how they are carrying those out. CYN, did you have something you wanted to share?
I can just say that I'm just really enjoying listening to you. What a wonderful conversation.
Thank you.
I've tried to like listen in on conversations in other places, trying to hear people talk on like Twitter and Clubhouse, and it's amazingly awful. And it's just so refreshing listening to you. So thank you for having this conversation.
Oh, thanks, Sin. I appreciate that. Trey and I here disagree on a lot, but I think there's a lot of mutual love between us. I'm a moral well-beingist. What's that, Trey?
Even though you lied to me yesterday.
Trey's still butthurt because I took him through a belief. I guess we could call it a game show, really, that he didn't really consent to be a part of, and he didn't really know he was in. And then, it caused Trey to distrust one of my propositions, but I had fun doing it.
News 2.0 now.
It was fun, and I still trust you generally.
Yeah. Okay. Good. But yeah. So yeah, we are talking about meaning today, everyone, and one way that I'm kind of like looking at the rational enterprise of your stated meaning and purpose is, giving you this hypothetical where you have $1 billion, and how would you carry out your idea of the good life, or what you would find to be a meaningful usage of those resources. Min, I would love to get your take. First, I want to ask you, what gives your life meaning? And I know I also want to state, because I like to, and I think Trey has too. There are other people in the room who have donated to Pangburn food giveaways that we do every year at Christmas to those in need. Last year we gave away 750 pounds of fish and pasta to a center, a live-in center for adults with special needs here in Oaxaca, Mexico, and Min made a very large donation for that giveaway. So anyways, Min, what makes your life meaningful?
Well, in order to answer your question, I had to reference a documentary I watched yesterday. It's called Finding Heroes, and Thomas would not like this because there was a Deepak Chopra in it, but he didn't say anything about quantum or anything. But he talked about the concept from Carl Jung, which is called the hero journey. So it's about like finding yourself, your authentic self, through all the challenge and pain in life and all the suffering or whatever you can go through. And when you find that authentic self, then that is where you can see the meaning in your life. And that's how I see it.
Okay, finding your authentic self, and I would assume that means like acting that out, living that out in the world too. Okay.
Yeah.
So figuring out, and do you feel like you are there? Have you found your authentic self?
I think I'm closer, but I don't think I reached the mountain yet, because my life, although it's go through some up and down, but it's not at the extreme like all the mythic figures in mythology. So I don't think I'm really there yet, but I'm on the journey to it.
You're not necessarily the Tao yet.
Yeah, you can say that.
So, okay, that's interesting. Now, taking that into consideration, taking in your idea of meaning, taking in your ideas of purpose, if you received $1 billion to do good with, to provide something meaningful and good for humanity with, what direction would you go?
So I will follow what Confucius spelled out 1,000 years ago. So I'm gonna look around the state first and see, probably taking care of homeless people first, and then healthcare system, and then outside the states, third world countries.
Yeah. Okay, so you would kind of look around you, looking at the immediate needs around you, curing some people of their homelessness, or some people would prefer to say houselessness, because often a homeless person will have a place they call home, but what they're really in need of is a house. So like, yeah, okay, and then you would think about healthcare, and then you would also start thinking about the third world countries who are short on resources. I think that's completely rational to your purposes that you've stated. I also understand the tendency to want to like open your door, like once you have the power of that amount of resources, to open your door and help those around you immediately. I understand the tendency to want to do that. I feel that tendency all the time. I want to help those in my community as well, and I think those are great feelings to have. And when you can actualize some kind of mission or goal related to those that's a great thing. So yeah, I think that's an important goal. You mentioned Deepak Chopra was in this documentary. I've gotten to know Deepak a little bit over the years, and despite my ridiculous amounts of epistemic quibbling I have with his his propositions, his beliefs, I think he is a good person. Like I don't have too many ethical quibblings, in that I think he is trying to do good by way of people's physical, mental, and social health, even though I think some of the things he's offering are woo-woo placebo type things. But sometimes those things can be much more benign than other things, so long as you are not trying to deter people from, someone who is battling, stage 1 prostate cancer. You're not trying to sell them on some like, oh, just smell this candle, and that is the best way to deal with this stage 1 prostate cancer, despite what medical science and those who master it in the hospitals are telling you. So yeah, that's my thing about Deepak. But him, and if people want to hear an interesting conversation, Deepak and I had a conversation publicly, you can find on YouTube, and we had a lot of fun together talking about atheism and and I remember him saying things like, Travis, very soon you'll be gone, I'll be gone, this will all be gone, nothing matters. Like, I remember him saying something like that, and I thought that was that's kind of a funny memory I have of talking to Deepak.
Well, just so you know, like I didn't watch it because of him in the document. I had no idea he was in there. It's just that based on the algorithm of YouTube, it's guided me to that video. It has a lot of archetype talk in that, so that's why I watch it. It's not because Deepak Chopra was in that. He just happened to be in that documentary.
Right. You want to clarify that for the audience, so that
yes.
They don't take you as someone that gets your science from Deepak Chopra.
No.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. I think you're a highly, highly ethical person, and I would trust you to make good decisions with that $1 billion. Yeah. JP, Carl Jung, or Deepak. I see.
So Travis, do you think that it makes sense that we tend to be happy when we see people around us happy? Is that so? That's why I sort
Yeah.
of think about expanding the circle of compassion. So the closest people in my circle come first, and then the circle will keep spreading
Yeah, I
wider.
mean, inevitably in that value sorting that happens in our cognition by way of our sentiments, we are just naturally going to value some people more than others, especially those who are close to that we have some kind of relationship. That's just part of the intersubjective interdependence. Well, it's part of this social creature that we are to have these kinds of preferences. But that doesn't mean we can't overcome that at times where we have, let's say, transcending ideas or higher purposes available to us, or things that we've constructed for ourselves that bring our goodness, bring our righteousness to a new level. So yeah, I think there are going to be, when we talk about maximize well-being for yourself and those around you, if they are suffering, obviously that's going to take precedent, and it takes precedent for good reason, also for your own well-being sake. So yeah, I just want us to, when we go beyond our immediate connections, our immediate relationships, I don't think it's right to automatically jump to, okay, that now that I've taken care of my my children and my family, with regards to my resources, now that means I have to go to the next closest thing, and that is my country. I don't think we should think that way as moral well-beingists, or people who are trying to, if you get $1 billion, you're trying to give a great work to humanity. I think focusing on those that need it most, there is virtue in this. And that doesn't always, it's not a perfect calculus, because there are people who need it most, within a 10-mile radius of you. But there's different kinds of services available to them that are not available to people in certain parts of sub-Saharan Africa. And I think that fact matters. Sin, CYN, do you have anything to share with regards to what makes your life meaningful? You don't have to share, that's fine.
Well, it just makes me think. I have kids, and I asked my son when he was, I think he was about 13, I said, what do you think the meaning of life is? And he thought that the meaning of life was to experience it. And I thought that was a pretty cool answer for a 13-year-old. I know it's not very moralistic, it's not, but I do kind of feel like through experience, we sort of naturally also acquire kind of ethics and our experiences show us where meaning is. We find meaning through our interactions with the world and how we reflect on what's happened to us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting older, and I really like to encourage people to get older. I think that through the media, a lot of times people, especially women, get the idea that, live fast, die young. You want to die, leave a beautiful corpse. Everything was about being beautiful and and young and virile and all of these things, but it's hard to really put into words except to say that there's just a richness that comes with experience where I enjoy things more in a way as
Yeah.
I'm getting older.
It sounds like you are garnering generally as people get older, they will start garnering more wisdom for themselves. And I think as we garner more wisdom to ourselves, our perception begins to widen with regards to our own experiences, past experiences, etc. But also with regards to other things, other ideas that we've maybe come into contact with when we were younger, but once we examine them now, after we've had more experience and we have a wider perceptive lens, and let's say we are more cognitively flexible as we become more wise, I think that can cause us to start enjoying our experiences more. And I have to agree with you in general. I'm not sure age is like age helps, because in general, age, the increasing of age, getting older, and wisdom, or some levels of wisdom tend to go hand in hand at some level. But yeah, I think that also does depend on what people think wisdom is, and what wisdom looks like in practice. But yeah, I think that is interesting. Like the meaning of life is to experience it. I think that's kind of this kind of dualistic, like descriptive and prescriptive statement. Like it's a good thing to experience it, and we are going to just descriptively experience reality as well. And then through that experience, we're going to garner new meanings and purposes for ourselves. So it is kind of a meta answer to the question, which is cool. And yeah, I think it is important to embrace. I think it's a healthy thing to do, as a moral well-beingist. I think it's healthy by way of your physical, mental, and social health to embrace your aging and have a good relationship with that. And that would include not just looking at the negative suffering avoidance lensing aspects of aging, but also making primary, I would say, the positive utility lensing of the positive things that come with aging, kind of like you just described here today. And I think you're reacting to a lot of that negative lensing of aging that you hear, like this idea of like, make sure you die young with a fit, pretty body. Toxic romanticism, it sounds like.
Yeah, and it's such a, it's a lot of it comes through advertising. I feel, it's people make a lot of money off of breeding insecurities and making it about, this will make you look better, this will make you thinner, this will make you win people's approval and things like that. And there's just a point where you really realize, I mean, the people that love you, the things that matter, like you're deeper than that. And if everything is focused on a very surface level and very about like the idea of this of being very young, you you forget who you are in a way. And as you get older, and you're kind of losing that and you're facing your mortality, you do focus more inward, and you do notice a little bit more like your spirituality, and you're connecting in our soul, right? Like there's no real exterior barriers as much. It's not about that. It's just about like witnessing another life, another entity, or soul, or however you want to think about it. And just at our like most basic state that we get away from We get focused on external things that are not us.
Yeah, I think a lot of what you've just outlined relates to this notion of, as opposed to thinking of ourselves as human beings, as might be more accurate to call ourselves human becomings. And I think there's a lot of wisdom found in realizing that we are all in this constant state of becoming and growth. I don't think that stops for a moment, even if you're in your 80s. I don't think that stops. I don't think there's any good reason to believe that stops. I think our best, scientific modeling relating to our biology, relating to relating to cognitive science, our cognition, all of these things, I think shows us that we are in this constant state of becoming. And if you embrace that, again, if the goal is to be higher levels of physical, mental, and social health for us in the maximization process, if we embrace human becoming, this can lead to less levels of cognitive rigidity and higher levels of cognitive flexibility. And that just in turn leads to higher levels of physical, mental, and social health. Does anyone have anything else they would want to share today for today's episode? If not, we are going to move down to our off-air voice channel. We're going to stop the live stream, which is called Trav's Tavern. For anyone who's new to using Discord, you just scroll down a little bit and you'll see where everyone's going, and you just have to click on that voice channel that says Trav's Tavern. Everyone on YouTube, you are welcome to join the Pangburn Universe Discord server. I'm going to give you a link that will connect you directly to Trav's Tavern, which we'll all be hanging out and relaxing and talking about whatever we feel like we want to talk about. In the tavern, there's not usually a topic. We're kind of just hanging out. Sometimes a topic takes form, but it's a good place to meet people and just chill and be human together. So thanks for joining us today, everyone. We heard from some new voices, which was nice. But regardless of what you do out there, make sure at least you are out there maximizing well-being for yourself and those around you. Thanks for being with us. Good night.